This video is sponsored by Codeco.com. Hey, what's up everybody? Vegetarian Zombie here, coming at you hot with the latest and greatest update to my course, Beginning C# with Unity. When I created this course back in 2015, I never thought it would get the attention it has received. Well, in that time, a lot has changed. Unity has exploded in popularity, and a lot of folks are interested in learning how to make games. Unfortunately, learning how to use Unity can be hard, especially if you have zero programming experience. That's what this course aims to rectify. That is, it aims to teach you the basics of C#, except you're going to do this while using Unity. That way, you can see the results of your code, real time. One other big change is that in the previous course, I just used the console to print out messages. In this updated course, we'll be playing with Unity itself. This will get you comfortable with working with Unity as well as with C#. Now, before we begin, a little about me. This is the Vegetarian Zombie channel that is run by me, Brian Douglas Moakley. I've been working with computers for a long time now and have programmed for a variety of platforms and frameworks for the past 30 years, with Unity being a top favorite. If you find this course valuable, definitely subscribe for up-to-date Unity videos. Mind you, this isn't just a programming channel. I also produce tutorials on games, as well as release a D&D podcast, 50 Feet of Rope. Outside of this channel, you can find me on Mastodon at Vegetarian Zombie. You can also find me at jesner.com, where I write about interactive fiction, book reviews, and tabletop gaming. Yeah, I kind of get around. In any case, I hope you find this information valuable. If you are feeling particularly thankful, feel free to press that super thanks button to send in a little support. Now this is the part where I give you lots of theory. We're going to skip that and jump right into Unity. I'm going to assume you've installed Unity. If you haven't installed Unity, pause this now and head over to unity3d.com. When you start Unity, you'll be presented with the Unity Hub. This allows you to install multiple versions of Unity. Clicking the Install tab, you can see I have a few already installed. I'm using 2022 2.6. If you want to follow along exactly in this course, click the Install Editor button. You'll see a bunch of versions. If you are watching this years down the road, click the Archive button, then the Archive link. You'll see all the Unity versions available to you. Mind you, the code we'll write in this series should work on all versions. The only big difference is the user interface. Unity likes to shuffle things around. Okay, back to Unity. Create a new project. Give it the name Beginning C# with Unity and create your project. Welcome to Unity. The editor can feel a little overwhelming. There's lots of information. The editor is broken down into several views. The center view, otherwise known as the scene view, looks into your game world. Right now, the world just contains a camera and a light source. You can look around the world by placing your mouse over the view and pressing your right mouse button, then move the mouse around. You can pan the view by pressing your middle mouse button and moving your mouse. Use your middle mouse button to zoom into a scene and to zoom out of a scene. Finally, you can move throughout the world by holding down your right mouse button and then using the WASD keys, like you were in some sort of first-person shooter. The hierarchy view contains all the objects in your current scene. Right now, there's just a camera and a light source. Select the light and move the cursor over the scene view. When you press the F several times, you'll focus on the game object, which is useful when you have tons of game objects inside of the scene view. On the bottom is your project view. This contains all the assets in your project. Finally, on the right-hand side is your inspector. This allows you to configure all of your game objects. You can drag these views around to create your own layout. Or you can use the layout dropdown to select some custom layouts. I prefer the 2x3. That way I have the scene view up top and the game view is right beneath it. The game view is where we actually see our game running. Okay, let's get busy. Let's create a message that will display on the screen. For this, we're going to use a canvas. The canvas is where you place your user interface components to create game menus. In the hierarchy, click the plus button. Choose UI and then choose Canvas. You should be able to see it in the scene view. It's pretty big, so you may have to zoom out a bit. Now to add some text. With the canvas selected, click the plus button again. Choose UI and then choose Text, Text Mesh Pro. This will open the TMP Importer window. Click the Import TMP Essentials button. Once done, you should now see some text in your game view. In your scene view, the text may look backwards. If that's the case, you are looking at the text from behind. Reposition the perspective of the scene view to look at the other side of the text, so it's not reversed. Hold down your right mouse button and use the WASD keys to reposition your view. You can also hold Shift to get a speed boost. Okay, let's move the text to the middle of the screen. First, select the Rect tool. You can find it in the toolbar located in the scene view. The Rect tool is useful for working with 2D sprites. With the Rect tool selected, select your text object. You can do this in the scene or in the hierarchy. Move it to the center of the canvas. With it still selected, increase the size of the bounds of the text object so you can put a lot of words for those of you with big names. Okay, we're not seeing the text in the game view. That's because the text is white against a white background. With the text selected, head over to the inspector. Scroll down to the inspector until you see the main settings. Look for the vertex color property. Click it and choose red. And look at that. You should see your text. Look for the font size. Change it to 50. In the alignment, set it to center. Finally, in the text input, change it to "this space for rent." Now comes the fun part, writing code. But before we do that, let me share a message from my sponsor at Codeco.com. Codeco is a site for developers made by developers. With hundreds of instructors from around the world, you can learn about topics such as native iOS development, native Android development, and even multi-platform development with Flutter. Codeco also features hundreds of free articles, including topics on game development covering both Unity and Unreal. As a Pro subscriber, you can access a library of thousands of videos on a range of development topics. The curated learning paths are designed to teach the basics of development in a friendly and supportive way. Pro subscribers also have complete access to all the books at Codeco, such as the Unity Apprentice, that aims to teach you Unity by creating a series of different games. Get started on your programming journey today by heading on over to Codeco.com. Okay, it's time to write some code. We want to write some code that allows us to add our name into the Unity editor and have it appear in the game. This sounds like a lot of work, but you'll be surprised. Select the text game object in the hierarchy. In the inspector, scroll all the way down to the bottom. You'll see a button that reads Add Component. Click it. You'll be presented with a lot of different component options. Scroll to the bottom of the list and select the new script option. Give it the name Hello World and click the Create and Add. Now you'll see our Hello World script attached to the text. Great work. Now, if you look in our project browser, you'll see our new script. To keep things tidy, let's create a scripts folder. Then move the script into it. Now double-click the script to open it up in your default code editor. Finally, we have code. Since I'm on a Mac, I'm using Visual Studio Code. If you have Windows, you should have Visual Studio Community running. If this is the first time you are seeing code, it may feel a bit overwhelming. Welcome to the beginner's mindset. Confusion is part of the process, so lean into that discomfort. And here's the kicker. I'm not going to provide any detailed explanations to you. It's just too much information that doesn't mean anything to you right now. We need to start small, build a strong foundation, and then expand on it. By the end of this course, you're going to understand every single line in this script. But for now, turn off your navigation computers and just use the force. Simply follow along and know that an explanation is coming in time. Before we do anything, let's do a test. In the code marked Start, I want you to type the word debug with a capital D, then end it with a period. You should see a list of options. This is known as code completion. If you don't see any options, then you need to check the official documentation to get it set up. With Visual Studio Code, I needed to jump through some extra hoops. Code completion is like a sixth sense. You will feel blind without it. So if it isn't working, stop now and consult the documentation. Now type the following. This is a log statement. No one will be able to see it but you. Make sure your code matches exactly my code. This means the word debug and log should be capitalized. The hello should be between quotes. An open parentheses should have a closing parentheses. The statement should end with a semicolon. Switch back to Unity. Unity will take a moment to process your code. Now play your game by pressing the play button. Nothing seems to have happened, except now we are getting a message. You can see it in the lower left-hand corner. You can also select Window, General, Console. This shows our message. I'm going to move the console next to my Scene tab so I can switch between them. Now switch back to your code and delete the semicolon. First, you'll see that Visual Studio Code lets me know that something is wrong. The file is now red, and the end of the line has a red squiggle. Switch back to Unity. This time we get a red error. All statements must end with a semicolon. It's like a period at the end of a sentence. If you don't add a semicolon, Unity will become confused. You won't be able to run the game until you fix the error. Just a quick note to confuse you even further, there are some areas where you don't need to place a semicolon, and you'll learn about these in time. Switch back to your code editor and add back the semicolon. That resolves the error. Okay, now to write some deep magic code. Again, don't try to understand, just hang on. At the top of the code, add the following. What does this do? Well, it uses something called TM Pro. That's all I'm going to tell you for now. Again, by the end of this course, you'll know exactly what it does and why you need to include it. Next, underneath the first open brace, add the following. You've just created your very first variable. It's a public variable, meaning the Unity editor can actually access it. Save and head back to Unity. Select the text and check out the inspector. Your script now has a text field called first name. Okay, back to your code. The variable is a type of string. You'll learn about types soon enough, but a string is simply text. Underneath the first name variable, add the following. We've defined another variable. This time it's a private variable. This means the Unity editor can't access it. It's a type of Text Mesh Pro UGUI, whatever that is. We'll be diving into types soon enough. Okay, now let's jump to the start part of the code. Delete the code there. Add the following. Here we are using something called getComponent. This is code defined by Unity itself. What does it do? It gets the text mesh component. This is where you can update it. Finally, add the following. Okay, this looks nasty. There's some text referencing the first name variable with a weird $sign before it. It's actually just adding your name into some text to update the Text Mesh Pro. Again, lots of deep magic with hand waving going on. Unfortunately, with C#, you are faced with a little complexity when starting out. And that's it. Review your code. Make sure it matches what you see on the screen. Any slight difference will cause problems. Save your work. Now switch back to Unity. I can't tell you how many times I've been stumped by perceived bugs when all I forgot to do was save my code. In the inspector, add your name in the text field. Run the game. Look at that. You should see your name in the game view. Now try changing your name while the game is running. Notice the name doesn't update when you change it. We put all our code in something called start, so it is only evaluated when the script starts. Now stop the game. Notice our new name has reverted back to the old one. When you run your game in Unity, you could change any value in the editor and it will affect your game as you play it. But when you stop the game, all your original values will return. All right, it's time to put your new skills to the test. I want you to create another text field in your script called last name. Alter the code so it reads hello first name, last name. So in my case, it would read hello Brian Moakley. Pause the video and try it out. Okay, how'd that go? Don't worry if you got stuck or couldn't figure it out. We learn by practicing and failing. Just be patient with yourself. Okay, open your code. Underneath the first name variable, add the following. Now in Start, update the hello text to the following. Notice there's a space in between. If you forgot the space, the names will be squished together. Finally, save, switch back to Unity. Select the text game object. You should see your last name text field. Add your last name. Play the game. Look at that. You can see your full name in your own Unity project. Well done. Excellent work. Take a break. You deserve it. In the next video, we'll dive into the world of variables. I hope to see you then. Cheers.